Good morning. Thank you to each and every one of you for being here today with us. We are very pleased to be able to welcome those that have attended the first UK-Ghana Chamber of Commerce Quarterly Tax Dialogue series, as well as those who are joining us for the first time today. Today is our second in the Tax Dialogue series, and we are proud to be able to host it today on the Chamber's digital platform. Before we get started, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to all of you who generously helped make this event come together. The UKGCC Quarterly Tax Dialogue series, organised in partnership with PwC Ghana's tax team, aims to bring together national tax officials, experts, industry champions, influencers and key stakeholders to openly discuss and deliberate on regulations and tax matters, how these affect businesses, and to ensure collaborative efforts in win-win solutions. By encouraging dialogue between governments, key stakeholders, business and tax policy, we believe it can be strengthened to counter tax avoidance and evasion, leading to the creation of optimal business environment where tax revenues are maximised for economic growth. As a key promoter of enabling business environment in Ghana, the UK-Ghana Chamber of Commerce is organising these quarterly tax dialogues in partnership with PwC. Today's gathering will focus on the tax implications from Ghana's 2021 budget statements, but I will leave a well-respected moderator today, Mr. Abeku Gyan-Quansah, tax partner at PwC, to introduce the topic when I hand over. But during the next hour, you'll be hearing from the GRA, learning about various initiatives and plans that the GRA have in the year ahead, and the supports in strengthening the government's fiscal space. Before I hand over to the moderator, I would encourage you to ask questions by posting them in the chat box, so the moderator will be able to present them in the discussion. So, with no further ado, let me hand you over to Abeku. Over to you.
So thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. Steve, thank you so much for welcoming us to today's tax dialogue series. And as we can clearly see from my screen, today we'll be considering the tax implications from the 2021 budget. And we are so glad to have with us today the representative for the Commissioner General in the person of Mr. Dominic Naab. Mr. Dominic Naab is a special aide to the Commissioner General and has authored a number of books, some of which include one, Oil and Gas and Other Mineral Taxation in Ghana, and then another on the essential pillars of tax audits and special investigation. So we are glad to have Mr. Dominic Naab with us today to share perspectives from the Ghana Revenue Authority as far as the implication of the 2021 budget is concerned. As we typically do, we'll try as much as possible to set the clear boundaries for today's conversation. And in order to do that, I would be making a few presentations to those represented here. And then that will serve as a reminder and clearly set the boundaries for our conversation today. So for the next few minutes, I would attempt to recap and also to share the perspective of at least the private sector on the 2021 budget and how the implementation has gone on so far. So moving on, by way of an agenda, we would consider the background to our conversation, which would involve the presentation I just talked about. We will then move on to deal with the panel conversation. And then finally, we will take your questions and the various contributions that you have. So by way of background, on the 12th of March 2021, sorry, we had our budget for 2021 presented to our parliament. And at that presentation, we were informed that first, the Fiscal Responsibility Act, which generally says that we cannot exceed 5% of our gross domestic product as the amount of deficit was going to be suspended. And therefore, we're expecting that we would have about 9.5% of the income we generate, having considered the revenue that we would take and deducting the expenditure and arrears that would incur, we would have a budget deficit of about 9.5%. We expect that in order to be able to do this, tax revenue would account for almost 56 billion net out of the 72.5 billion that we expect to raise in order to be able to spend about 113.8 billion, resulting in the 41 or so billion deficit that we would be running. So over the next few minutes, what I would attempt to do is to recap the changes that were made in order for government to be able to generate the 56 billion net tax revenue that we are looking at for the period 2021. So what are those? In the 2021 budget, government gave a number of reliefs and also introduced some revenue generating measures to be able to raise the revenue of about 56 billion that we are looking at. Some of these include suspending the quarterly income tax that we have for those that pay the vehicle income tax and those that also pay the stamp taxes or the stamp income tax. So government says, I am going to suspend this for the second, third, and fourth quarters, but there were certain conditions. Some of those conditions include: 1, you should have been registered with the Ghana Revenue Authority. 2, you should have paid your first quarter taxes. And then 3, you should be complying with the tax laws of this land. So those were some of the conditions that were outlined for benefiting from those suspensions. In addition, government also introduced a 30% tax rebate for those who are in the tourism and educational sector of our economy. So if you are within that particular sector and you meet the similar conditions, such as being registered for tax purposes, if there was a first quarter tax to pay, haven't paid it, and also complying with the tax laws of this country, then you would have a reduction of 30% of the amount of tax that you should have paid. And government also gave an indication to extend the exemptions from capital gains tax, or tax on capital gains, better called, that you would incur if you dispose of shares listed on the Ghana Stock Exchange. But what we need to note is that unlike the previous 3 measures that I've talked about, the amendment for this is yet to be submitted to Parliament. And the reason is clear. We already have a law that exempts this up to the close of this year. So by way of reminder, these are some of the benefits or some of the measures that government introduced in the 2021 budget to grant some form of relief to taxpayers. But to be able to generate sufficient revenue to prosecute government's agenda, government introduced a number of measures, the first of which include a 5% FinSec levy, or financial sector cleanup levy. This levy is 5% of the profit before tax. So if you make a profit, then you need to make payment of 5% of that to the government of Ghana, effective 1st April 2021. In addition, government also introduced, but just to go back, government said the 5% FinSec levy does not cover rural banks and community banks. So let us take note of that. In addition, the Ghana Revenue Authority has introduced an administrative guidelines setting out its understanding of that particular law, which is worth also looking at. And that is specifically in a document with reference GRA AG 210002. The next thing that government also introduced was a 10 pesewa and a 20 pesewa respective levies for catering for sanitation and pollution matters, and also to raise some revenue to deal with debt in the energy sector. So these things would apply on petroleum products. So as you buy petroleum products, you would expect to incur these levies. Another indication that government gave in the budget was to raise taxes a lot more from commercial transactions that are conducted over the internet. So as we all know, because of COVID, and even before COVID, a lot of the businesses that we're doing in brick and mortar have found its way over the internet. So government, and I know, is frantically working on this to introduce measures to effectively raise revenues from activities that are conducted online. The last thing that you need to know on this slide is that government has also introduced a 1% COVID-19 health recovery levy. So basically, government is saying that if you were incurring VAT with its associated levies by way of the health insurance levy and the Ghana Education Trust Fund levy, there is now going to be a 1% levy applied when you incur costs relating to your purchases. In addition, this 1% COVID-19 health recovery levy does not only apply to those who charge VAT at a standard rate of 12.5%, it also applies to those who charge VAT at a flat rate of 3%. The other thing that we need to note is that this levy here does not behave like the typical VAT, where you would have recovery through your VAT return. So this levy operates like the health insurance levy and the Get Fund levy, where you do not get those particular reliefs. Moving on, a number of administrative measures were also introduced or proposed. First of which includes government saying that I'm going to engage with those in the gaming sector to see how best we can develop a policy that works for all of us to raise revenues that hitherto were not raising. The other thing that government also said was that I need to improve how digitized we are so that people can comply easily with their tax obligations and also obtain government services in a less stressful manner. So from the 1st of April 2021, government announced that the tax identification numbers that we are currently using will be replaced by the personal identification numbers indicated on the Ghana cards. The other thing that we need to note is that government says that to increase revenue, I would intensify audits, whilst I will look to reintroducing the exemptions bill to Parliament for consideration. But closely linked to the idea of tax audits is that government says that I have introduced a tax amnesty for which application should be made by 30th of September. So I'll encourage you that if you are here to take advantage of that tax amnesty, please do that, because it can save you a lot of money. And I'm going to share with you some evidence that I have for some of my clients that have obtained this tax amnesty. So it indeed works. So please get those exemptions as soon as possible. And lastly, government is saying that if you are in the downstream sector, whether for petroleum, whether for extractive, then the intensification of tax audits would apply a lot more to you. So once again, the encouragement here is that please go through your books and then take advantage of the tax amnesty, because if you do, the revenue would not be able to prosecute you in respect of taxes before the close of 2020. And in addition, penalties and interests would not be applicable provided you get the tax amnesty. The last thing on this particular slide, which government promised, was that by the close of the first half, the members of the Tax Appeals Board, which essentially is a board that would deal with cases arising from tax assessment taxpayers disagree with before going to the High Court. But as at the close of June, this board, at least publicly, was not yet in place. So hopefully, I'm sure the rep from the Ghana Revenue Authority will be able to share some insights on where we are as regards the introduction of the Tax Appeals Board. Finally, a few comments that I will add on this slide is that SSNIT is prosecuting a lot of companies that are not complying with pension contributions, especially the second tier contribution or the MPRA in this particular manner. So if you are an expatriate, please take note that you are not exempted ordinarily from second tier contributions unless you meet certain conditions. So please take notes and comply accordingly. Moving on, I did indicate that I was going to share with you evidence of certain clients that have gotten benefits from this penalty and interest waiver. So the first thing that you can see on the slide is how the application form looks like. And if you visit the GRA website and you go under forms, you will see the penalty and interest waiver application form. Please download it. And to the extent that you have undisclosed taxes or undisclosed or unsubmitted returns, I would encourage you to do that. And if you can't do that, please consult a consultant to help you to do that. The image in the middle is evidence of some taxpayers who have actually gotten the penalty and interest waived by way of getting the penalty and interest waiver certificate. And with this certificate, the GRA cannot come and prosecute you in future in respect of those amounts that have been disclosed and waiver obtained for. And lastly, I did talk about government digitization agenda. And from what you can see on the last image on this slide, I have clients who are going through the Ghana Gov, which was officially launched yesterday, and I've actually been able to make payments for tax purposes using the Ghana Gov platform. Lastly, I think it's just about time to invite the rep of the Commissioner General, Mr. Dominic Naab, to come in and then share in 5 minutes the opening remarks of the Commissioner General. So thank you very much. And Dominic, please, you can take over. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and our audience. Commissioner General would have actually loved to be part of this program, but as we are preparing towards the mid-year budget, they are currently at Peduasi Lodge to look into that. So he has asked me to actually just step in and then share some few topics with you. If I do it well, praise should go to him. If I don't do it well, blame me. GRA has a clear mandate, and the mandate of GRA is to administer taxes. And as you are aware, some reforms have actually taken place in GRA. What are those reforms? One, we are saying that given the mandate of GRA to administer taxes, cash collection is not part of our mandate. So let's give the cash collection to persons that have the core competencies to do that. So we can concentrate clearly on our mandate of administering taxes. You are coming to think of it. Sometimes we have problems when it comes to the cash payments and even checks and what have you. There's other checks here and there. So to avoid all those things, we have asked that, look, pay through the Ghana.gov platform, through the banks, Momo, and what have you. That's what we have done. Now, essentially, this reform is to create some convenience for our taxpayers, because you can pay taxes wherever you find yourself. And for us, that is actually a very huge incentive for taxpayers. Additionally, we have this online filing. File wherever you are. Even if you're outside the country, you can file your tax returns. That's also one of the reforms that we have actually brought to the fore. And the payment online. Now, when it comes to policy issues, we all know that the Ministry of Finance is the body that is charged with that responsibility. GRA does not actually look at policy issues. We administer taxes clearly. It is true that the budget this year actually has brought to the fore some new taxes. I would actually look at it and say that it is actually a zero-sum game. Zero-sum game in the sense that, yes, we are collecting taxes by way of introduction of new taxes. We are also giving away by way of amnesty. And also the rebates that partner Abeku mentioned, 30% rebates. Clearly, we think that we need to actually encourage voluntary tax compliance. And to do that, we need to actually create some incentives here and there so that our taxpayers would comply with the tax laws. Yes, we also appreciate the fact that as part of trying to ensure that we engender voluntary tax compliance, we need to also look at our laws. You read our tax laws, and there are some complexity. You start from Section 1. Then it tells you that subject to Section 4, you go to Section 4. Notwithstanding Section 10, you go to Section 10. Despite Section 15. I mean, this actually creates a lot of inconveniences for our taxpayers. So what we have done is that we have actually come out with administrative guidelines for GRA staff. These administrative guidelines, however, are also being used by consultants and our taxpayers, which is also very good. We have come out with a practice notes that is ensuring that there's consistency and uniformity in the application of the tax laws administered by the Commissioner General. We also respond to what we call private rulings by the Commissioner General to our taxpayers' requests, who want clarity on some tax provisions. All these are geared towards enhancing the corporate image of GRA and also creating voluntary tax compliance and making our taxpayers very comfortable. As I said, from the beginning, we don't even want to say taxpayers, we want to say clients. But there's a difference between taxpayer and then the client. There are some taxpayers who actually are not paying taxes. When we say clients, then it means that we really challenge them and want to ensure that we listen to them often and try to provide services that would actually meet tax collection to tax administration. Tax collection, pay your tax, with some amount of aggression, but when I would do it with some smiles and some amount of comfort. That is what the modern taxation is all about. And of course, we also try to engage our our clients and then the consultants, just to have some kind of cross-fertilization of ideas and to have thoughts regarding the taxes that we administer. The fact that we administer taxes does not mean that we know it all. We sometimes get it wrong. So we need to actually share so that we can actually have a very good tax system. But let me just say that Commissioner General are being carried through by Ghana Revenue Authority, especially the cashless. I know some questions will come on it regarding the fact that we are going to actually create a lot of problems for some of our clients, our taxpayers. But the truth of the matter is that Ghana as a country is trying to go cashless or cash light. And GRA is a major in this ecosystem. So we believe strongly that if we actually partner government in this area, then we'll be able to achieve so much feats. The other day on Joy FM, I was talking about the fact that when you want to apply for passport, you do it online. Then you go for your biometric fingerprints, and that is all. Bingo, you have your passport. That is how it should be. So we want to actually ensure that we help the system reduce cash, and bulky checks, around. That is why we are actually initiating some of these reforms. But I agree that we are open to feedback, we are open to criticisms, So if you have any issue, come open to listen to have the fix if that is what it is. So I wouldn't want to talk much because I'm sure there will be some issues I'll be talking to directly. So I'll just pause here and say that GRA is poised towards ensuring voluntary tax compliance. And there are 4 things we want our taxpayers and then our prospective taxpayers to look at. That they have, 1, an obligation to register with Ghana Revenue Authority. 2, they have an obligation to pay their taxes promptly, to file their tax returns, and to disclose their income honestly to the Ghana Revenue Authority for a fair determination of their assessment. On this note, thank you very much. And I'm sure as we go along, I would speak to certain specific issues. Thank you very much.
All right, so thank you very much, Mr. Dominic Naab, for sharing the Commissioner General's opening remarks with us. We appreciate it. So Dominic, I would start by asking a couple of questions, and then subsequently, I believe our audience would also be asking some questions. So to start with, there are times whereby government would introduce a policy, and then when a taxpayer seeks to take advantage of that policy, of course, to really support the intent of the law, some of your offices may tell them, oh, you should have notified me, or you should have come for a letter in advance, or you should have done this, or you should have done that. For the purpose of clarity, as regards the 30% rebate that has been given to those in the educational and tourism sector, what is the view of the Ghana Revenue Authority? Are you expecting taxpayers to do anything other than being registered with the Ghana Revenue Authority, complying with the tax laws, and if there was any tax to pay during the first quarter, having paid it? Is there anything else taxpayers should know so that they are not surprised at the end of the day? Thanks, Dominic.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for this question. It is interesting to note that taxation is governed by law. This 30% is not coming from GRA. GRA is supposed to only administer the 30% rebate. And if you look at the law carefully, it has actually delineated clearly persons that should actually benefit from it. And as you rightly pointed out, we are looking at education, looking at the art center, and then we are looking at tourism and education, what have you. Now, if you look at the law, it is very clear. It says that 30% rebate. So they are going to pay taxes on the 70%. That is clearly what is stated in the law. And you must also belong to those sectors actually to benefit from it. When you do a careful reading of the law, there is nothing clearly, regarding what it should be. What it is that you must belong to that sector, and you take the rebate as the law has provided. I am not too sure we are going to ask for further particulars before that benefit can actually be, taken, because the law is clear. I believe that if we are bringing anything, then we probably would be creating a lot of inconveniences for our taxpayers, and that's not what the law actually talks about.
All right, so thank you very much, Mr. Commissioner General. The second question I would ask, and I like the whole idea that now you don't describe taxpayers as just taxpayers, but your clients. And it's always very essential for a client to know what the other party expects. And by this, I will quickly commend the Domestic Tax Revenue Division of the GRA for issuing several administrative guidelines and practice notes to at least let us know what you are thinking. It doesn't mean that we would always agree with you, but at least we understand what you are thinking, and then we can take up transactions with clear understanding of what the revenue is thinking. Now, we don't see that much from the Customs Division, which is also a division within the Ghana Revenue Authority. As the Commissioner General and the CEO of the Ghana Revenue Authority, what plans are there to ensure that we are not surprised by certain procedures customs may be undertaking and its clients, in this case, we the taxpayers, aren't aware? Are there anything else? Are there any assurances that you can give that going into the future, the Customs Division will become a lot more like the Domestic Tax Revenue Division and share a lot of their procedures with us so that we are not taken by surprise?
Yeah, thank you very much. As you are aware, the domestic tax revenue collects about a little over 70% of the revenue targets. Now, when it comes to customs, let it be known that we are not looking at only revenue, but we are also looking at our borders protection as well. So these are the rules that they perform. Now, in customs, I am not too sure that the system is as complex as the domestic tax. I'm not too sure about that, because it is pretty much straightforward, you know. And I am also not too sure that there has been a clarion call on the Ghana Revenue Authority to develop some kind of practice notes or guidelines on the systems that actually operate there. If there are, I can assure you that we'll quickly respond, to that. And talking about surprises and certain initiatives that we may take, which will be against our clients. I mean, taxation, as I said, is governed by law, and whatever we are going to do would actually be in sync with the law. But having said that, I think that this is a conversation that we have just started regarding the fact that possibly we may have to look at the custom administration once more and see whether there will be the need, for us to actually do something about it. Having said that, we have engaged some stakeholders, and they have actually raised concerns about certain aspects of the custom tax administration. And the Commissioner Customs has been tasked to actually look at those areas and try to simplify the laws. So gradually we are getting there, and I believe that, with this conversation, I will let Commissioner General get to know, and then we may have to have some broader conversation. So if there are some concerns regarding what we should do to better the system, trust me, we will do it just to make our clients very comfortable. Thank you.
All right, so thank you very much, Mr. Naab. The third question I'm going to ask is related to the whole idea of integrating the systems in this country. And by that, I mean replacing tins with pins. Now, as you may know, there are certain expatriates or some expatriates who do not meet conditions for getting the Ghana card. And as far as the timetable of the GRA is concerned, I think by close of year, you will do away entirely with the tax identification numbers. What happens to persons like this who are unable to procure a Ghana card, but are working in Ghana and earning income? What and how? What are the plans that the Ghana Revenue Authority has to accommodate the needs of these persons? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. As you are aware, the tax identification number that GRA started administering was actually a creation of a law. And it became very clear that government wanted us to actually have a very common identity. So hence the Ghana card to be integrated with the TIN. And quickly we had to put in place a system that would ensure that we are able to merge the two together. That's exactly what we are doing, giving some timelines and working assiduously to ensure that we are able to actually achieve so much. But you see, I want it to be made clear today that TIN is not going away. We are saying that it is going to be replaced by Ghana card. But you see, if you are using it for tax purposes, it's still TIN. Let me take it again. If you are using it for tax purpose, it's still a TIN, taxpayer identification number. If you are using it for other purposes, then it is not a TIN. That is one. Number two, we have situations where we thought that the Ghana card should only be limited to Ghanaians. But here we are. Of course, that was the original, thinking. Now that we are merging it with the TIN, what it means is that we have to also take into account certain interests as well. Now, I want us to look at foreigners, especially from two angles. We have foreigners who actually are going to be working in Ghana. Foreigners who are going to be working in Ghana. Now, for such, we are going to have what we call a non-citizens, card. Non-citizens card, for them. Non-citizens card, for them. So that we are able to distinguish between Ghanaians and non-Ghanaians. Then we also have another aspect of foreigners. And here we are looking at persons that will come into the country for a period probably less than 90 days. Once you are here for a period less than 90 days, and then you may be transacting business with Ghana Revenue Authority, we are going to have what we call the Registrar General's, a desk at the Registrar General that will still issue this taxpayer identification number to such categories. So we are going to have it all year through. So once we have such persons, they come, of course, our law says that if it is so, we need to give you an ID card so that we can actually have such engagements, with you. So we want to actually have a desk for such purposes. And I'm saying that is an isolated, case that will be handled at the Registrar General by GRA staff. But as I said, but those who are in the country for 90 days or more, for such persons, we are going to have what we call the citizens, non-citizens, card for such purposes. So these are the plans that we have in place. All others, Ghanaians and whatnot. If you have the TIN, you don't have the Ghana card, then you need to actually have that, integrated for us. So that is what we have put in place as a country.
All right. So thank you very much, Mr. Naab. So the takeaway point is our expatriate community that do not have the Ghana card or a unique identification number for such purposes should not be concerned at this stage. Their TIN will still be acceptable until the time when a special provision is made to address their concerns. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is it.
All right. So just a reminder to our audience, please keep your questions coming in so that we can ask the man who is the special aide to the Commissioner General himself to address all these concerns. So Dominic, I just got a question coming again. So regarding the Ghana.gov site, as you are very much aware, your clients can file their VAT returns. Now, what has been noted is that on the site, the update has not been made to accommodate the COVID-19 health recovery levy. So for your clients that wish to file on the Ghana.gov website, what should they do? How should they address this particular issue? Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much. This is a concern I'm just hearing for the first time, but I'm just going to note it. And then just as we are talking, I'm going to send a message. So before the end of the program, I would get an answer for you as to why we haven't done that. But I can assure you that if it is not done, initially we're developing the returns to be able to accommodate the 1%. And I'm surprised that we haven't done that. But of course, that I'm sure is an IT issue, and I'm just going to get in touch with the IT person as the program goes on to find out why we haven't done that up to now.
So closely linked to this question is the fact that can the taxpayers then walk into your offices to submit the physical returns, because the messages that we keep hearing is that some offices do accept the returns, while other offices are not accepting the returns. So do we have a clear guidance that taxpayers can therefore walk into your offices and submit those fiscal returns? Because yes, it's been updated on the downloadable returns, but it cannot be done on the Ghana Gov because the update has not been made. Thank you.
No, it's something. I mean, yeah, thank you very much. Obviously, if you can't do it on the Ghana.gov platform, the best is to submit it, by to the offices, and I expect the offices to collect, because the point is that we want to make our clients very comfortable, and I don't think that by introducing this system, we want to create any challenges for them. So once they come up, I do something that we should be able to, and I'm noting it down, and then we'll see how we can fix it quickly.
All right, thank you very much, Dominic. Now, just at the back of that, filing taxes or filing returns, typically goes with the payment of taxes. So as you are aware, last year the GRA publicized a number of bank accounts for taxpayers to be able to pay their taxes remotely without going to your offices. Now, with the introduction of GGov, where does that sit? Do we have the comfort that, just as you've explained, that the whole idea of the system is not to make your client's life a lot more miserable, but rather to create additional convenience? Can taxpayers still do direct transfers into those bank accounts that were publicized by the GRA last year?
Yeah, I think we actually came out with 22 banks. And as I speak, I think the rural banks, we are having some conversations to also have them come on board. And many more banks would come on board as we go by. As soon as we are able to have some engagements and then we clear it with Bank of Ghana, then we'll do that. The truth of the matter is that we are reviewing the system. As I speak now, the commissioner for DTRD is at Teshi. Yesterday he was at Abeku. On Monday he was at Tema, trying to actually look at the situation, assess the situation, and give a comprehensive report to Commissioner General for us to have some kind of conversations around it. For now, I haven't actually had any negative feedback regarding the system we have introduced. I am not saying that there are no negative listen, but I haven't heard actually. What we are hearing is that so far so good. People are learning how to actually use the Momo and what have you, which is actually quite straightforward. But if there are issues, and fortunately we have you consultants who really are doing very good jobs on behalf of our clients, and once you bring it up, we'll find a way. If they can't, they are finding it very difficult paying. We just have to create a system, a platform where we can collect the cash. We need the money as well.
Right. So
thank you. I will note that one as well.
Okay. So closely linked to the role of the tax consultant. I mean, a number of people use tax consultants for various reasons, even including confidentiality reasons, amongst others, and the ability to concentrate on their core business while someone else takes care of their tax affairs for them. Currently, the GGov platform does not have a model to enable tax consultants to do the filings on behalf of their clients or to make payments on behalf of their clients. And even in instances where they can, the system is such that when you get into the system, you can see everything relating to the company. So for example, you may have a client engage a tax consultant to say do payroll because they would want to keep it as confidential as possible. But now anyone with access into the GGov platform will be able to see returns that have been filed amongst others. So are we soon going to get a model where tax consultants will be provided for, and then two, the system segregated so that the client can determine what kind of access levels to give to whoever is getting onto the platform? So somebody may be making a payment, but the person should not see the details and the shadows. Thank you very much, Commissioner General.
Yeah, thank you very much. Initially, GRA was working on a ITAPS, which you are aware, to have our own system. But we had to actually be subsumed under the government board, policy, which is the Ghana.gov platform. Ours, initially, we actually had that kind of arrangement where a taxpayer would actually write to us that we want this consultant to do everything on our behalf. In that case, we would give that person the pass to be able to transact such businesses on behalf of the taxpayer. But the Ghana.gov platform actually is a platform where GRA is also linked. It is not ours. We also sit on it. So if there are problems, I think that we need to actually escalate it so that the ministry will have to look at it. Because, as I said, we are not the only persons using it. Other government organizations are equally, using it. But we want to ensure that there's confidentiality, in matters relating to our taxpayers. So if by using this one is going to compromise, such, then that is something that should be of concern to us. And I believe that it is something that the system providers can look at and help us modify it. So I'm taking note of that, and then as soon as Commissioner General comes, we'll have a conversation around it, and then we'll take it up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Naab. The issue around the expatriate things have come up again, and this time from a different angle. No. So what is the arrangement for foreigners to take up shares and director positions in companies in Ghana, but do not come into Ghana at any point? They were required to obtain things. So just to explain, as you know, for you to be able to set up companies in Ghana and to even be a director, you needed to have tax identification numbers. Now, some of these directors may not even be within Ghana, but that requirement seems to still come up. So if your offices will not really be issuing new things, and these persons cannot also get a Ghana card, then what happens in that particular instance, especially when they are not within the borders of Ghana? And the guidelines that the GRA provided was for taxpayers to visit certain offices, but these are the cases where you do not have those persons in Ghana. What happens in that instance? Thank you very much.
Yeah, in fact, if you look at our constitution, under the directive principle of state policy, government has a bounding duty to actually promote investment, both local and foreign. To this end, a lot of institutions have been established, i.e. Ghana Investment Promotion Council. And you would realize that lately, they have been doing so much to woo investors into the country. Now, I'll be very surprised if in all these endeavors, we still are going to make it impossible for foreigners to actually participate in our economic space. I'll be very surprised. Now, as I said earlier, if you look at it, we are not actually precluding them, from obtaining cards in Ghana. What we are saying is that if you listen to me carefully, if you are coming to Ghana to stay for less than 90 days, we will still GRA will issue you with 10. But we are going to have a desk at the Registrar General that will do that, so that we are able to deal with such persons. Now, persons that are coming to transact business with us for more than 90 days, they are going to have the NCC, that is the non-citizens, card, which is equivalent to our card here, just that we identify them as foreigners. Now, if you are going to have a director who will not come to Ghana here, but would want to actually, a foreigner who would not come to Ghana, but will be a director, I believe strongly that it's an issue that we have to get in touch with the National Education Authority to take a look at it. Because the truth of the matter is that they are driving this project. We are only just assisting, giving them what we need. So this is a concern. We have actually, I haven't actually thought of it. But once it's a concern that has come up, I'm noting it, and then quickly I'll get in touch with the head of taxpayer identification number in GRA, who is working closely with the NIA to look at it, and then so that they can provide a quick fix, for us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Naab, and this is reassuring. And my ask of you would be, on behalf of the chamber, if you could please, as soon as possible, when you get a clarification, the GRA should issue a public notice on this matter so that we all have clarity, because there are millions of persons who would have not had the privilege to listen to this reassuring message that you are giving, but need to know of plans to address those concerns. Mr. Naab, as you are very much aware of, and sometimes when I'm thinking in my quiet moment, I just smile that maybe going into the future, we must continue having reverence as commissioner generals, because in recent time, we've had about 3 tax amnesties. So it probably shows their disposition to quickly forgive wrongs. All right. So we currently have the Penalty Interest and Waiver Act of 2021, and there have been varied views on the act. One school of thought is that for you to come under the Penalty Interest and Waiver Act, you should have determined all your liability and all your non-filings and submit a single application up to the end of December 2020. Another school of thought is saying no. If you identify something in respect of that liability and or in respect of that return, you can go and file it, and the GRA would give you the waiver. For some of the clients that have seen the thing done, they have estimated at least as much as they can, and nothing shows that they cannot go for another if they subsequently discover something on or before 30th September. And to my mind, I don't think the policy direction would be to tell persons that because you discovered something 3 months ago and now you've discovered, don't come and disclose, and will not waive, but come and punish you for those non-disclosures in future. What is the message to all your officers regarding taking the benefits under the PUA? Should it be once, or as long as taxpayers can identify it and submit the application before 30th September, the revenue will be welcoming and encouraging taxpayers to keep making those disclosures and getting their certificates? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This issue has come up over and over, again. But you see, I want us to just take a sober reflection. What is the essence of the amnesty? The essence of the amnesty is to encourage voluntary tax compliance. That is what it is. And also to ensure that it is able to free cash. The amnesty is up to 31st December 2020. So if you are able to establish your principal liability, interest, penalties relating to that period, that is what we are saying. But you see, the essence of it is to encourage voluntary tax compliance. And what the Commissioner DTRD has said, which is very clear and communicated that to officers, is that if a taxpayer is being audited now relating to period up to 31st December 2020, they have the right to actually come under the amnesty. If even today, you are auditing me today, but it relates to period up to 2020, December, I have the right to benefit from it. And that is the opinion we all share, and that is why we are canvassing. You see, if you look at it in the past, our tax amnesty actually provided that if you were being audited, you couldn't actually benefit from it. But this one, it is not stated anywhere.
Yeah.
So once it is not stated, people are trying to actually impute some meanings into it. But you see, in taxation, you don't read into the law. You don't also take anything out. So please take it from me, and that is actually what is coming from the top, that if you are being audited, once it relates to period up to 31st December 2020, you have the right to actually benefit from it. And again, if even you are not being audited, you should be able to establish your liability. That is your principal tax liability, interest and penalty, and file and ask that it should be granted you, and we'll do it for you.
So thank you very much, Dominic. This is encouraging. The only thing is that the body posture has not been the same regarding all your offices. And of course, that's why you said that others are sharing varied views. And as you know, the administrative guidelines that you issued requested your clients to go through their respective offices. So the application would typically not come directly to the Commissioner General or even the commissioners. It ought to go through the various offices. And in the case of customs, either it goes through the Commissioner for Operations or it goes through the Deputy Commissioner for Post Clearance. So in this particular instance, is it possible to issue a public staff? Yes. I mean, there are times where Commissioner General has spoken. We've heard his view clearly. It's on social media. We know what he's thinking, but the thinking is a bit different when you visit the respective offices. So in order to ensure that taxpayers do not have those conversations or difficult conversations with your offices, it would really help, because to my mind, it makes sense that application can even be deemed. So if you are currently auditing me and you've not completed, you didn't finish your work enough for me to make a decision to apply. So I think it makes sense. But I'm not sure your offices or a number of your offices would accept this interpretation unless the commissioner has issued something that we as clients or taxpayers can hold and make them change their stance on some of these matters. Thank you. So another question that I just come through, Dominic, is how can businesses take advantage of the new tax policies in terms of waivers? Okay, and I think you addressed it, so please, I will be glad if you can quickly summarize this for the purpose of the questioner. And then 2, what is the GRA's plans concerning taxpayer education, especially among the informal sector, like the market women, the SMEs, in order to inspire them to voluntary tax compliance? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think this platform is one. We thank UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce for organizing this program. That is why for us, in fact, anytime you ask us to be on the program, we are always, happy, because it offers us the opportunity for us to share the thoughts, of GRA. Education is not an event. It is a process. Yesterday, for example, we had this Makola women that we engaged them on, trying to actually, talk to them about some of these window of opportunities. But the point is that, I mean, we have a very large, client base, very large. So radio, we've been doing some education on radio, on TV, social medias here and there. And I believe that our offices all over are also, available or can be accessed for some of this interpretation. But let me just quickly also say that regarding the tax amnesty, in fact, I've seen a lot of taxpayers bring the application to Commissioner General. Once they bring the application to Commissioner General, he gives the approval, and then he asks that the necessary listen is done. So it is not only the offices. In fact, Commissioner General has signed so many, approved for action. Once he approves, we don't expect you, the office, to ask questions, because he would have satisfied itself before doing that.
Okay.
All right. So that is, thank you very much.
So thank you. So we'll wait if the letter doesn't come and we have any issues with the taxpayer service centers, we'll just redirect the application to the Commissioner General himself for consideration.
Thank you.
The other question I have here, possibly the last question, is that in October 2020, we passed an amendment to the Revenue Administration Act to say that GRA should not involve itself much in dispute resolution beyond a certain stage. If matters are unresolved, because businesses need certainty, their first point of call definitely is not to the courts. It is to a higher administrative body. So government gladly listened after years of pushing this to introduce the Independent Tax Appeals Board. In March 2021, the commissioner, the minister responsible for finance at that time represented to our parliament that by the end of the first half of this year, which is 30th June, the members of the board would have been appointed. Today is 15th July. Publicly, at least, we don't know of any member who has been appointed. Are you able to tell us where are we regarding this so that we don't get government monies being locked up in long-drawn disputes, so that we can get the kind of revenue we are looking for to build the kind of country that we will all be very proud of? Where are we on ITAP? What assurances do we have regarding the effective date, considering that it's about 9 months since the law was introduced and over 15 days since the deadline for the members' appointment should have been done? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Immediately the law was passed, GRA erroneously thought that it was its mandate to put in place the committee to serve. So what we did was that we hit the road running, quickly trying to write to the bodies, ICA Ghana, the Ghana Bank. I mean, that was what we wanted to do. Because it was discussed at the board level, that quickly let's put in place, the committee to start action. But attention was drawn to the effect that, no, it is the Minister of Finance that should actually do that. If you read the law carefully, it is not GRA. Because the point really is that if we have to put in place this board, then it is going to be interpreted as GRA putting persons who would actually promote their interests on the board. So the Minister of Finance that must actually establish the secretariat for the board and provide allowance, for the board. So GRA is not actually required to establish this board. It's the Minister of Finance. What GRA has done is to remind the Minister of Finance that we keep getting letters asking us, when will the board be established? That we have done. In fact, this question would push me to ask Commissioner General to draw the minister's attention that our stakeholders, our clients are really, really eager to have the board, established. It is not the mandate of GRA to establish the board. It is the ministry's mandate, because we cannot actually establish the board. If we do that, that would actually be a conflict of interest situation. So that is not our mandate. But that notwithstanding, we can only just make inputs regarding the fact that our clients are eager and willing, ready, to have the board established.
So thank you very much, Mr. Dominic Naab, the rep for the Commissioner General, Ghana Revenue Authority. That brings us to the end of the questions that we had, and we are happy you came. Are there any final comments that you have before we can go to Steve to close out? Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you very much. I must say that some of the issues that you have raised, for example, confidentiality, public statement on this amnesty, and then directors, foreigners who want to be directors but to be non-resident, and the Ghana card issue, and the cash, and the online issues that you have raised. I can assure you that the next time we'll meet, we'll have resolved all this. So I would quickly put them together, get solutions, and send them to the chamber, and I'll copy you, partner Abeku, so that you can have a clear information about the position of GRA on this matters.
Thank you very much, and that is comforting. And just before I go to Steve, I just want to remind us all that the chamber continues to provide adequate platform for networking, advocacy, and trade services. And the chamber has been doing this since it was established about 5 years ago in 2016. The social media handles are actively working, and you can find the chamber on UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce on Facebook, or the Executive Director Ajoba also on Facebook. You can do same on Instagram, Ghana Chamber of Commerce, and you can also do that with the UKGCC Executive Director also on Instagram. You can also find the chamber on Twitter and on YouTube, as well as LinkedIn. For any additional information that you have, please feel free to contact Margaret on 054-012-6619, and your concerns regarding advocacy, networking, and trade services would be addressed. Thank you very much, and Steve, over to you.
Abeku, thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed the last hour in the exchange between Abeku and Dominic. And what I was really encouraged by is the commitment from Dominic there to come back at the next quarterly dialogue saying that some of these issues will be resolved. And I applaud that very proactive commitment that's been made there, Dominic. Thank you. Without further ado, let me close today's session, but once more, just thank our moderator and our panelists for today's exchange, and also to you, the audience. You know, without you, these events don't make sense, and we look forward to welcoming you, both as the UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce and PwC, at these quarterly tax dialogues in the future. Thank you very much.